Just my humble opinion. We regenerate armor, but not health? Come on, man. The Emperor gave them Laramin's organ for a reason. Laramin's organ? Okay. Space Marines should regenerate health over time. So, I think this has been a suggestion that has came up actually quite a bit recently, and this is interesting. This is definitely interesting. A passive heal. Now, this would definitely be considered some sort of healing rework, and I honestly, I understand where they're coming from, but I don't 100% think their point is accurate as far as regenerate armor, but not health. They really don't need to relate to each other too much. However, I won't lie. I am pretty convinced by this meme. I'm pretty convinced right here that they are onto something. And not to mention, this is not the first time this was suggested. Yet another healing system rework suggestion post. Addressing the whole bulwark was not intended to be designated healer problem. Solution in a few simple steps. Every class now has a built-in passive heal, 10% of HP from elites or higher, and 2% of executing gaunts. Medpacks no longer grant HP, and only used to remove a mortal wound. Skull carrying limit is reduced from 2 to 1 per person, so teammate got you up, you use meds, skull is gone. Okay, so stims are only for mortal wounds. This is definitely an interesting idea so far. Bulwark ult no longer grants temporary HP, give it wider range, make it stand a bit longer, and only gradually granting shields and damage defense buffs. Boom, done easy. Now it is used as you're intended during every big fight last stand style whenever it isn't in a cooldown. Okay, so this is pretty interesting as far as the Bulwark ult idea. I do like some of those Bulwark banner perks that are, like, you know, a little underappreciated, like Purity of Purpose, where you can get a damage AoE with your banner. I do like that one. But not to mention making it longer is already kind of possible with Glory's Shield, but that does replace Icon. I kind of like the idea of making it, you know, last longer and definitely giving it a wider range. Every class now has a built-in passive heal to 10%. Okay, I honestly read this post first. I thought they were talking about, you know, just a passive heal for everybody, but they mean on executions. Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people have been suggesting this. A lot of people are definitely interested in getting healing from execution, kind of like a global perk for everybody. I mean, yeah, at this point, I gotta be honest. I've been hit by so many things that just, like, practically one-shot you. I'm really not convinced that a built-in passive heal on executions would, you know, make too much of a difference. Preventing comments like, then Vanguard loses its identity and not needed anymore? No, because he still has his hook, his mobility, his ability to shut down any shooting unit by simply ulting into it, and he still has his passive that gives 30% HP after killing a special, and yada yada. Because you could have said the same about Bulwark, that he is useless without his heals, but he still retains his shield, with which he blocks any incoming range damage and can shut down ranged units by tying them in close combat. I mean, he does have a point. The shield is a lot better than I give it credit for sometimes. He still has the ability to revive with his banner. Yeah, that's fair. And now he will take a role of giving buffs during fights. P.S. And yeah, I know that this suggestion most probably won't be implemented and be ignored as numerous other people post before it. I'm just venting, I guess, throwing my 5 cents in vague hope. But let me know what your guys' thoughts on the matter. I think this is a good post. Yeah, naturally, a lot of people have been kind of putting in their 2 cents as far as healing rework goes. At this point, people are really interested to see what the devs end up doing with healing overall. I think, honestly, Icon is still in a good spot. I'm actually enjoying the kind of balanced Icon. I think it's a little bit more interesting to place your banners and make sure your banners are doing the right thing at the right time. However, Icon can still, it could still be a little bit of a stim. It could definitely still be dropped just to heal people. I really don't find that to be an issue. Now, what would we replace Icon with if we did have passive healing, regardless of how it works? I think that would be a little bit interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm not against it. I do think it would be kind of interesting to see what the devs could cook up with if they do implement execution heals, but then replace Icon. I would definitely be interested on kind of like a new Bulwark perk, but it would have to be something good. Remove Adrenaline Rush from the Vanguard. Give him armor reinforcement like Bulwark and Assault. Okay, that's cool. Let every class get their 5% back on Majoris plus Execution. Simple, easy fix. Okay, yeah, it's just that easy. Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm really not convinced that getting at least 5% health back for like Majoris executions or above, I'm really not convinced that would break the balance of the game. And also, I do like the idea of the Vanguard having armor reinforcement. That does sound pretty cool. But like, with armor reinforcement though, you need a fencing weapon or at least balance. I think Vanguard can do that. I mean, they have Duelist, but with Duelist, that does make Vanguard a perfect blocking class. I think having a minimum health regeneration would be a decent slice of life change. Something like regenerating back to 40 to 30% health would take a lot of frustration off if you finished a fight at 10% or less health. Not too much to make you fight recklessly, as you only have so much health to work with, but not too little to make you completely timid of aggression during a fight. Yeah, you know what? That's a fair point. Something like regenerating back 20 to 30% health would take a lot of frustration off if you finished a fight at 10% or less health. This is interesting. I'm about to reference Elden Ring here because, I mean, Souls games in general, they have like these late game talismans. Sometimes they're kind of early game. Like for Elden Ring, you can get it pretty early actually. But like a passive like 1% heals throughout like the entire, whenever you have the talisman on, you just get 1% passive healing. Sometimes it's actually more effective than you can think, because you just consider it like passive damage resistance in a sense. Let's say you get hit by an attack that does 15 damage. Well, if you have 100 health and you heal back 1% every second, that 15 damage, after 5 seconds is only 10 damage. You see what I'm saying? So I do think minimum health regeneration would be good. It might even be better than the execution way. Maybe not. I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, there would be people just waiting around. So I feel like there should be a maximum that you're allowed to regenerate back. Something similar to the Chalice. The Chalice is very cool. I honestly really enjoy playing around the Chalice. 100%, I would settle for a regeneration to 50% health. You still have to be cautious, but don't have to worry so much about a single lictor popping up and killing you immediately. Yeah, this is a balanced way to do it. I do like this suggestion. Game is perfectly doable as is, really don't need any changes that make it easier, and this idea would make it unbelievably easy and dull. I also agree with this. I guess it really just depends on who I am trying to play for the most part. Some classes, man, like some classes just really get punished for not having any sort of healing support. The assault class, the tactical also, but tactical has a really good, has really good DPS options. Game is definitely perfectly doable as is. I do agree, but there are definitely a few moments that feel very salty when you get hit by like a sniper and you go to like 1 health. Like any sort of extra healing support really would just help make those moments feel a little less salty. However, you would still get potentially one-shotted regardless of what they adjust with healing. I just honestly think it's something to keep players in a sense of, I don't know, like they have a chance, basically. However, I do agree in a sense that the harder the situation looks, and basically the more you play out of a bad situation, the better it feels. So I don't know. Sometimes it feels good that we are actually completing Absolute with the minimal healing we have. However, I do think it's possible to adjust something small to just allow players to feel a little less salty from getting, one-shotted.